Greetings, everyone. Greetings. Welcome back to the show. It's your host, Danny Haiphong. As you can see, I am joined by former U.S. Army officer, geopolitical analyst, and commentator, Stas Krapivnik. Stas, good to have you back on. How are you?
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Tired, I'm sure, like everybody else, because nobody's willing to sedate Trump and keep him away from that freaking telephone where he keeps posting stuff. They need to do this just for humanity, for at least a day, just separate him from anything he can touch. Put him on a couch somewhere, let him sleep it off.
Yeah,
Don't give him any
seriously.
whiskey. Don't know what they'll do with that.
Everyone hit the like button as you come on. That helps boost the show. We're going to get started right away, Stas, because I wanted your comment on this. We know that Iran's retaliation has been very undersold by the United States and Israel. We're hearing all kinds of reports of what Iran has been able to do, which I think is causing panic in the United States' warmongering brass. You have Iran having hit these key radar systems, Stas. Most recently, they hit one, I believe it was in Jordan, and as well as the UAE. These radars are so critical to the THAAD system, which you can help explain after I go over this, Stas. But here is another image of what happened in Jordan. That is the radar system that has essentially been demolished by Iranian missile fire. Now, Stas, there's only, I believe, the numbers keep on changing, but I believe there's only 8 of these THAADs in the world. And with their radars gone, we have Israel struggling very dramatically. This is Haaretz talking about how now alerts for Iranian missiles and drones for their air defense systems to start firing have gone down to just a matter of minutes, that they cannot commit to a specific number of minutes for their warnings and the activation of sirens. And I can play just a little bit of what that has actually produced in the last few days, Stas. Here you have an Al Jazeera report that shows what Iran has been using, this cluster bomb missile, which has absolutely, and you'll see here, Israelis reacting to the sight of them. Well, there you have the air defense systems just working just overtime for one missile, Stas. And the damage has been had. We've had images of massive damage inside of Israel, as well as surrounding areas. So, Stas, talk to me about what exactly you believe has been happening in this war. Where is it right now as we go beyond the 1 week mark?
Well, first of all, as far as radars, those THAADs, that's radar that goes with the THAAD battery. THAAD battery is an anti-missile system battery. The interceptors, first of all, this project that's supposed to be cutting edge technology, it was lingering around for about 20 years. Everybody, the military is trying to kill it over and over and over again. But the Senate the Congress wouldn't allow it to die because too many Congress critters were getting some good pork barrel spending out of this project. So it finally got birthed. They really wanted to stillbirth it or abort it, but no, it got birthed. While the radars are very good, they see over the horizon, they're also very bright, which means they get a lot of attention. You do not want to get attention in a military conflict, because the more attention you get, the more service you become. And what I mean by service, you get shot at. That's a nice that's a nice term for getting whacked, and they got whacked. But those aren't the primary radars. Those are mobile systems that go with the batteries. There are, I think, if I remember correctly, 7 batteries of THAADs in the world. One was, or 2 of them were in Saudi Arabia. They've been destroyed. They were sold to Saudi Arabia. And the remaining 5, the U.S. deployed 2 of them to Israel, maybe 3 batteries. But as far as I remember, it's 2. So they might have moved one of the radar systems into Jordan to make up for the stationary radars that Iran destroyed. Iran destroyed one in Bakharan, which was this giant radar system that the U.S. used for targeting Russian ships in the North Caspian. And by ships, in this case, I mean civilian transport ships, giving them coordinates to the Ukrainians, which is hilarious because all of a sudden America's elite politicians have found out that, oh, Russia's given, those evil bastard Russians are giving coordinates to those evil bastard. How dare they? Yeah, it's called payback. I've had a few other words to it, but children may be watching. It's like, welcome to the payback. You want a proxy? We can have proxy too. And China's doing the same thing, but with their Beidou system. So the fact that American politicians are in shock tells you how ignorant they are, how much they believe their own propaganda, that they're exceptional, they can do whatever they want, and nobody can do anything back to us. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, the political class in the U.S. is mostly absolutely ignorant of reality. So that's one system, and that system that was destroyed in Bakharan was $1 billion system. And there was another smaller system that worked in tangent that was destroyed in Qatar. And we saw that it was destroyed. What amazed me is how it was destroyed. It was destroyed by a Shahed drone first day in, and this drone, they're slow. They have relatively slow. They have like a small moped internal combustion engine. They're loud. It sounds like a moped flying over your head, and you're watching this drone and just nosedives it. What amazed me was nobody was firing on it. Not assault rifle fire, not machine gun fire, no stingers going up, nothing. Everybody either cleared out and ran away to their bunkers without doing any kind of air defense. Obviously, no missile fire from a Patriot, for example, nothing. It just flew in, blew up a $500 million piece of equipment, and that's it. And there's a lot of American bases burning everywhere. 22 bases have been hit, including in Iraq, in Mosul, for example, that America leveled to free it from IGIL that the U.S. CIA created. And right now there are battles going on in Mosul because after Iran hit it for the Iraqis, Iraqi militia and regulars are now having firefights with the U.S. troops trapped there. So unless the U.S. does some kind of convoy run to get those people out of there, there are 2,000 Americans that are basically sitting in 3 bases in Iraq, cut off. So when their ammo and food runs out, yeah, they're screwed. One of them sits in Kurdistan, which is pretty funny because in this case, because the U.S. just backstabbed the Kurds in Syria and let al-Jilani and the Turks massacre them. So now we don't need you guys anymore. Thanks for playing. Thanks for being on our side and being devoted to us. And go bugger off and have at him, al-Jilani. IGIL can now murder at will because al-Jilani plays basketball with Central Command generals, and he gets on stage in the U.S. He's as Trump said, I put him in. I put this guy in. Oh yeah. He's your little bastard. So these, by the way, are the same Kurds that they're counting on to throw over into eastern Kurdish territories in Iran to start a revolution there. The same guys they just betrayed, the same guys whose cousins and brothers or fathers were just massacred, women, children, all. You got to love Washington. I mean, this is, it's not even amateur hours, Keystone Cops. It's ridiculous. There's no strategy. There's no long-term plan. It's whatever goes at the moment. That's that, and literally that. And even political notice that about Trump. It's like they just woke up and went to war. Yeah, pretty much so. Well, they didn't wake up and just go to war. They woke up and were told by the Israelis, "You're going to war," and that was it. That was the final decision, which we got from Marco Rubio and from Johnson. In a big word salad, but when you boil it all down, we weren't planning on attacking them, but the Israelis are going to do it, so we had no choice. So we know who your masters are. You could have just said, have at it. We're out of here. Have fun. We're not doing anything. Get whacked. That's your problem, not ours. But no. It's time for Americans to die and die. A lot of Americans to die for the greater good of Israel. Just while Israel's committing genocide in Lebanon, and they're talking about how they're going to settle Lebanon. with Israeli settlers once they exterminate the local population and the Christian population too, by the way, which is 1/3 of Lebanon is Orthodox and Catholics. But to the Zionist evangelicals, those aren't Christians; they're some kind of pagans. Unfortunately, so that's what we have. What we see here is a 3-phase attack, and we're somewhere between phase 2 and 3. And when phase 3 comes in, everybody's screwed really, really badly on the receiving side. Phase 1, you take all your cheapest junk and you throw it in mass, but you're not throwing it to destroy the air defense system. You're throwing it to blind the air defense systems. And the forward bases were hit, the forward radar system destroyed, airstrips were hit, so you can't get planes up as easily to recon and air defense. Phase 2, you don't throw as much, but you throw enough to keep using up the anti-air defense system. So you keep throwing whatever old stuff you have, your medium-age stuff. Your good stuff is still held in reserve. Once those missiles are used up, and just to understand what we're talking about, the 2 batteries of THAADs had 192 missiles between them, 192 interceptors. There's about 70 more interceptors spread out in different U.S. units for the other 3 THAAD batteries. So, okay, there's 70 more. And the U.S. sold a certain amount to the Arabs and others, but they've been used up. And U.S. manufacturing is 10 missiles a month. Hand manufactured by hand. U.S. comes in there with about 1,000 Patriot missiles. On a normal case, it's like 2 missiles per target, so you're looking at about 500 targets, and then you have no more missiles. Though, I had one of my updates, I had the shot of the day where it was ballistic, and by the speed of it wasn't anything. It's not hypersonic. It was just a relatively slow-moving ballistic missile coming in somewhere in the suburbs of Tel Aviv. 11 Patriot missiles. $66 million went up to meet it, and they missed. All 11 Patriot missiles missed, and the ballistic just goes through and blows something up. Yeah, at that rate, you're not going to have a lot of missiles left. That was, by the way, those 11, that was about a week and a half of manufacturing production, because the Patriot is now produced at about 35 to 40 missiles a month. That's it. And they're also done by hand. By the way, so is the Tomahawk. Why they're done by hand? Because of the way the Pentagon pays out for manufacturing to suppliers. They do a cost-plus system. So if we decide your profit margin is going to be 10%, and your item cost is $100, we pay you $110. There's your profit margin. So the emphasis for any private company is obviously to make their missiles as expensive as possible. And you make those missiles as expensive as possible by putting them all together by hand. You don't have any automated facilities to slap them out in any kind of large volumes. So the missiles become extremely expensive. I mean, the PAC-1 Patriots were $1 million back in 1991-92. The PAC-3 Patriots are about $6 million. So, a little bit of inflation over the 30 years intervening. And that's what you do. You put them all together by hand. But of course, you can't surge that very much in production. And amazingly, it actually amazes me quite a bit with a $1.5 trillion budget, official budget of the Pentagon. But the actual military budget in the U.S. is about 30% of the U.S. budget, governmental budget. It's just hidden in chunks. For example, half of NASA's budget is actually military. And then you get Veteran Affairs, which is a separate department. Even though in almost any other government, it'll be under the Ministry of Defense, or in the U.S. case, Ministry of War. Yes. you get it's separated out, but it's really still all Ministry of Defense budget. In $1.5 trillion official Ministry of or Department of War budget, they couldn't find $10 billion or so to build a new factory over the last 4 years, knowing that they don't have enough missiles. What can you say? Government officials. So they're running out of missiles. To make it long story short, they're now trying to strip missiles out of South Korea, out of Taiwan, out of other locations, Patriot missiles to bring them in. If they even bring those in, that's maybe another 700-800 missiles. Okay, so you've bought yourself maybe another 4 or 5 days a week max. Right now, with what's on hand, anywhere from a week to week and a half from now, there will be no missiles. Iron Dome is the same thing. Arrow in Israel is the same thing. They're out of missiles because it's a hell of a lot cheaper to make a cheap ballistic missile for $100,000 while the other guy's throwing $6 million missiles at it. You know, even if your economy is that much bigger, it still runs out of money. And that's not even counting drones. So once your defensive missile systems are done or overwhelmed, you can always overwhelm the system too. You just send such a big wave that they don't have time to reload, and whatever they can't hit just gets through. But the Iranians aren't doing that. That's a short. We saw that in 2012. 2012 in the 12-day war in the summer. The Iranians would just overload the system. They send enough ordnance that they couldn't just shoot them all down because they run out of missiles. And good luck trying to figure out which one, by the way, is the newer and more. It's going to hit the target tighter than the older missiles. This time, Iran is going for the long war. Trump was advertising that the Iranians were calling him and asking for that's BS, total BS. And once that was, and then they, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Iran was asked, I'm like, hell no, we're not. When we're done is when we're done, when we feel like we're done. And that's when Trump came back with, oh, I'll take nothing but unconditional surrender. And then I'll pick the Ayatollah. Okay, Mr. God's chosen for the heretical Christian Zionists actually believe this, that he's God's chosen to lead them to whatever. So, it's desperation at this point because they know in a week and a half, give or take a few days, one way or the other, they're out of missiles. Now what do? Now comes in phase 3, and that's when Iran pulls out its high-quality hypersonics and everything else that's going to hit on target with some random satellites up top, giving them exact coordinates of every target. We don't know whose satellites they could be, hit, nudge, nudge. But they're, and then you got a problem. You got a very big problem for the U.S. military, for the British, French, Germans, or whomever wants to join in, for the Israelis, obviously. You got a very, very, very big problem. What do you do now? And that, I don't know. I don't know what the U.S. could leave. I mean, you could just say, oh, sorry, okay, we've done what we could. We're out of this and take the smack upside the head and leave. But they won't do that because the politicians will just double down. Israel could go to a nuclear attack, which would be, at least politically, diplomatically, the end of Israel forever. U.S. could do the same. It would probably be the same thing. Or Russia and China could step in and counter-threaten with nuclear weapons. And then we may have a nuclear war. Who knows? Orange Man nut job might just go for that. I don't know how much listening to him, I don't know how much he's in reality, honestly speaking. Trump 1 and Trump 2 are radically different people. I mean, just listen to his speech, listen to the way he spoke in the first Trump term, and listen to the way he speaks now. His vocabulary, as far as his choice of words, his sentence structure, which is just chunks, it sounds like an 8, 9, 10-year-old talking. It's a vastly different. I'm not saying Trump was any kind of genius to begin with.
No.
Well, most American politicians are far from any genius. Some of them have barely room temperature IQs, probably lower than that. It's a popularity contest, and that goes for the Democrats as well as the Republicans. Look at Oksana Cortez. I mean, good God, you got a barman with all the intellect of a barman now as a senator. Woo! Yeah, that's getting the best and brightest right there. I guess you ran out of looks. I don't know. But the point is, these are the people you have in power. These are the people you have around you. And the generals aren't going to say anything because they want their big money career after they're no longer generals. When it's written general retired, RET, behind their title. they want the big money career, so they're not going to do the honorable thing and resign rather than carry out idiotic suicidal policies. God forbid that. Then they don't get the big money contracts. So this is the government that the U.S. has. This is the government that you're living under right now. Never mind the majority of Epstein elites. That literally they just don't rape children. They sometimes also eat children. Quite literally. I mean, as many small-time, medium-time celebrities and other people were telling you this is what's going on, and everybody looked, yeah, that can't be right, or it's conspiracy or whatever. No, it's much worse than you think. But these are the elites you're living under. So if they're willing to eat children of their own people, quite literally rape them, murder them, whatever the hell they're doing, if you read the accounts, it's mind-bogglingly insane. What are they willing to do with you or with another country? And when the U.S. is now, I mean, of course, the U.S. is saying they're out of missiles, they're out of this, they're out of that. Far from it. They're not doing the big waves that they were doing in the 12-day war because they realize this is going to be a long-term fight. And the politicals in a panic, and all these other papers in a panic because they discovered the U.S. is planning for a 100-day war. Now, which was supposed to be a 4-day war, went to a 30-day war, which we're at day 8, I think, now. And then, I'm sorry, day 8. Had picked up the date. They're all starting to blur together. And now they're looking at a 100-day war, and there's no munitions for that. And the Tomahawks are going to run out. Right now, they've started dropping JDAMs, which are glide bombs. Basically, you take an old iron bomb, and you put wings on it and a module to control where it's flying as it's gliding down. Sometimes they'll even put a small jet engine on it just to push it a little further. But in the end, it's a glide vehicle that's coming down. So it lets you do a much further standoff. It's basically a dumbed-down cruise missile with a very small engine or maybe no engine at all, just lift from the plane. And that's what they're hitting with right now. I mean, I watched some of these videos. You can hear the sound. It's a very distinct sound of JDAMs coming in because they're not very aerodynamic, obviously. They're not meant to be. They're iron bombs that you drop from a plane. And the reason they're hitting civilians is because they can't find the military targets. The U.S. Air Force has been doing that since World War II. They always think if they murder enough women and children, society there will collapse, and then you can just walk in and take over. It has never happened once. Never. Because the people may not like the government, but they see who's murdering their children, and they're going to rally around the flag. That is natural human instinct, no matter whose country you're bombing. You can buy the elites out. You can do things like that. But bombing them out, no, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. But they never learn. I think they just enjoy murdering women and children. Honestly, I don't care. Either that's stupid or they enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, Stas, I wanted to just demonstrate a bit of this air defense issue that you just outlined here. Here's a Patriot missile system that was destroyed by Iran in the UAE. And I just want to show people that there's a direct connection between these things being destroyed by Iran and then what you see, for example, here at the Dubai airport, which has been shut down, which shows exactly this phenomenon you're talking about with Iranian drones. Here we go.
Another drone. I don't know if you can see or not.
You'll begin to hear it soon.
It's coming to the airport again. Yeah, straight to the airport.
So these kind of direct hits are happening all the time throughout the Gulf and Israel as well, in large part because they're acknowledging it, Stas. What you are saying is not something that is being denied so much, at least within the mainstream media even. Look at this. Allies are fearing that this war is going to leave them without the weapons they bought. We already know that they're trying to strip South Korea, Japan of anything that they have in order to continue this. But Stas, it's not so easy, is it? And where does this leave Israel too? Because Israel, now that we've had Pezeshkian say, okay, where we might not be hitting the Gulf as much anymore unless the bases are used for this war, Israel was not on that list. Israel continues to be hit every day. Where does this leave them as these air defenses because they rely on these very heavily as well. When they start to run out.
You know, one of the reasons I got to hit the base is because there's not enough targets worth the opportunity to hit anymore. Yeah. Quite literally. I mean, I've got lots of videos of American bases burning. Ammo depots hit, fuel depots hit, headquarters building. The Fifth Fleet has no place to go except go home to America. Its ports are destroyed, burned out. I loved when Trump was like, "Oh, well, just escort those tankers right through the Gulf." Okay. How many sailors how many sailors are you ready to lose to say enough is enough? Because there's going to be a lot of dead ones, a lot fewer ships left in the U.S. Navy if you do that. I mean, you've got to be either senile or, I'm sorry, butt-ass ignorant. I mean, look at a friggin' map. It's 35 kilometers at the narrowest point. You don't need land-to-sea missiles. You know what you need? You need about 1,000 kids with drones, just regular FPV drones by line of sight, and they can the bigger ones that have a bigger bigger battery pack on them, with an RPG round on them attached, and you just start just throwing them out there. You'll overwhelm any defense of any ship in an area that narrow. That's it. You're going to shoot every single one of those kids sitting under every single bush? Yeah, you're not going to find enough of them, especially consider it's mountainous area looking down on you, but they sure as hell can find you out in the middle of that very narrow strait. I mean, that's the reality of it. Welcome to modern technology. They even need to use sea drones, but they could use those too. Plus, even though Iran's fleet has been destroyed, its surface large ship fleet has been destroyed. It still has about 20 submarines, diesel submarines out there somewhere. Maybe a few less. I don't know. The Americans are claiming they've sunk one. But they've got tons of speedboats. And by the way, that last American tanker that was hit and it was burning was hit by a surface, a sea-to-sea missile fired from a speedboat. So, you know, what you're looking at here is you're just screwed. I mean, if Trump is going to go for it, I mean, he could. Who knows what he could offer? There's no admiral's going to quit. I'd be surprised if any admirals quit. Will try to execute the insane order. I mean, my God, you're looking at possibly the 82nd Airborne, 101st Airborne, maybe 10th Mountain being tossed into either Turkey's border with Iran and toward Iranian Kurdistan, or to Azerbaijan. It looks like, exercises have been canceled for the 82nd Airborne. Leave has been canceled. So I guess these guys are going to go on a death ride into the mountains of Iran, where drones are waiting for them, and the Iranian army dug in is waiting for them, along with the idiots in Azerbaijan that seem to be really apt to have their country disappear off the face of the map, because they've pissed both Russia off and are really pissing Iran off. 8 million versus a combined 250 million. And Azerbaijan is a one-trick pony.
That doesn't work well.
The math is great, but Azerbaijan is more or less flat compared to either side of either Russia's Dagestan or Iran's Azerbaijani areas. And you're not going to get the Azerbaijanis to rise up, because you know what? They're extremely well integrated into Iranian society. How well integrated are they, Stas? Well, the previous president was Azerbaijani, and Khomeini is Azerbaijani, so the new Ayatollah, his son, is Azerbaijani. They're very integrated into the ruling class. They're not going to rebel. They're part of the elite. They're not some small minority off to the side that nobody remembers. They and the Persians are on equal grounds ruling Iran. They're not going to rebel. They have no reason to rebel. On the other hand, Azerbaijan may disappear or have its economy ruined because it's a one-trick pony. Its number one economy is oil. I used to be in Azerbaijan a lot because I had people working there. I was director of supply chain for Halliburton, Azerbaijan for Eurasia. Azerbaijan, it was actually my favorite place to go because Baku's was a pretty cool city. You could go hit the bars and things like that. Never mind, they're Shia Muslims. You could go hit the bars and places like that. So you got done in the office on the north side of the peninsula, drove to a good hotel on the south side of the peninsula, and then went had a couple drinks with your with my managers that were working for me. So, compared to everywhere else I went, that was a cool place. Most of the other places were in the middle of absolutely nowhere. You're sitting in some container with a bed in there. It's like, yay. But, it's part of the job. But the problem is, outside of oil and agriculture is exported to Russia, otherwise it goes bust. The last time Russia closed the border, said no more Azari agriculture, and that was a big problem. And oil, and shipping oil and gas out. That's it. It's pretty much a one-trick pony. Carbohydrates. You remove that, Azerbaijan goes into third world status very, 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 very quickly. But I guess they want a war. These mystery drones, and I'll repeat, the Lucas drone, the American Lucas drone, is an exact copy of the Russian Grand 3. And back in June, the U.S. unveiled its new drones. They were an exact copy of the Shahid drones. So these mystery drones started hitting for some reason, just flew into Baku, into Azerbaijan. It was Baku, south of Azerbaijan. Hit the airport, and then hit something else. I don't remember what else. They were flying into Cyprus to hit Cyprus, and there was a missile flying to hit Iran. Now, the representative of the Housing Party of the UK, which is a very tiny party, but also the RAF, have both stated that what hit into Cyprus, into their base, was not an Iranian drone, was not an Iranian missile. They won't say whose it was, but we know several Israeli agents were arrested in Saudi Arabia and Qatar trying to blow up equipment. Oil equipment to get everybody involved in this war. And a little over a month and a half ago, Georgia opened up its airways for U.S. military flights. And within a week of that, within 2 days, 4 C-130s land to refuel in Tbilisi Airport. I wonder what they were carrying aboard those C-130s. Maybe, I don't know, drones, something like that. Because mystery drones are now popping up all over the place. So I don't know. I mean, they're trying to get this going because the missile campaign and the bombing campaign isn't working. They're killing lots of civilians. And one day they killed over 1,000 civilians, hit 13 hospitals and medical points. 13. Hit 2 more schools. Because
Stas, it looks like we've lost you. Are you there still? Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay, continue.
I think they're trying to cut us off. They don't want us talking about the.
Yeah. Well, actually, Stas,
switch them off. Quickly, switch them off.
I wanted to talk to you. I know you have talked about that all of these problems that you just mentioned, and that we've covered here up to this point. The United States is trying very hard not to look the way of panicked, but there's a lot of indications that this is actually the opposite case here. Here is what Donald Trump said right after Przeshkin gave the so-called fig leaf, but I think it was more like a chess move around the Gulf states, saying, okay, we won't hit you if you're not if you're not being used militarily to hit us. Trump has made this huge statement about wanting unconditional surrender because Iran is being beat to hell. It's the loser of the Middle East. It will be hit very hard. And, if it doesn't if there's no unconditional surrender, he's going to be choosing the leader, et cetera, et cetera. This is Donald Trump's rhetoric. Now, you posted, Stas, and I really want you to, if you could, help people understand what exactly is going on here. Let me see if I can find your post here. No. Oh, here we go. It's the very last one. Your post where you talked about air superiority over Iran has not been achieved. And you said there's a misconception about information space that the U.S. and Israel have established full control over Iran's airspace. And you posted from here these maps, especially this map, about where Operation Epic Fury is firing. So talk about this, if you could, and how that reflects how you're seeing the United States as well as Israel react to how this war is going.
Well, I mean, they did kill a certain amount of launch vehicles that were on top. There's a lot of launch vehicles that are kept underground. They come out when it's time to launch the missiles and they go back wherever the tunnel is that leads them. Iran has actual what they call missile cities, which are these huge fortified underground facilities. With, by the way, they can also assemble missiles, fuel them, and continue the process. There's certain things like the actual body of the missile has to be done in a factory environment. But you can assemble them once you get the raw material, well, the steel, the rolled steel and sheet steel for and the different parts for the missile assembly. I mean, you can continue assembling them underground. Drones, by the way, are much easier. Setting up a modern drone factory isn't that expensive and isn't that hard. You don't need big steel rolled tubes for your missile body. You can. Drones can be made mostly out of polymer materials or plastics. So they do have these, and the U.S. has not destroyed them. In fact, it's pretty hard to find them in a country that's 70% mountains, very, very high mountains. Which is, by the way, okay. So you're going to throw in light American infantry units against almost a 1 million man army and militia that's dug in the mountains. Okay, man, have fun. I wouldn't want to do that, but okay, whatever. So they're having a lot of problems, which is why they're bombing civilians. They did the same thing in almost every single instance. The most famous one was Clinton bombing Yugoslavia, which is supposed to have lasted 7 days, lasted 98 days, and they went to bombing civilians, hospitals, trains, markets, churches, and so on, because they couldn't find the Yugoslav military, which dissolved into the mountains. Was sitting there waiting for the Americans and NATO to come in to start whacking them, which, by the way, the Iranians are doing the same thing. This dissolve out into their different bases, and they're sitting there in their bunkers waiting. Well, are you going to come or you're not going to come? And as the Iranian government, the foreign minister said, "But aren't you being pummeled? Aren't you going to surrender?" "No." "You really are ready to take on the U.S. Army?" "Yeah, we're waiting for you. Come and get some." And they're in shock. I mean, these are the same people who are in shock to say, how can you justify hitting American bases? I don't know, because they're freaking shooting at us. I mean, this is NBC, by the way. Give them dibs, so they at least allowed the, brownie points, and they at least allowed the foreign minister of Iran to answer. But, who writes your questions? I mean, sir, this is the same people. How dare the Russians give coordinates? I mean, it's the same mentality. How dare they proxy us? We're the only ones. We're, the exclusive people that can proxy everyone else. Nobody can touch us. They're not allowed to. It's in the bylaws. See, we wrote the bylaws. See, there's our bylaws. But at this point, the air defense systems, I don't know how much they're degraded. I can't say. I mean, obviously. And there's this other moment where we found out that the U.S. Air Force is bombing drawings. And there's lots of, in their own images. I mean, they're pretty damn realistic looking drawings when you're looking through whatever filtered camera that they're using. But when you hit the smack in the middle of a parked fighter plane, and it just becomes a big hole, smoking hole, while the rest of it's still there. Obviously, you hit concrete, very well painted concrete. Oh, like this helicopter, yeah,
right here.
You don't see parts of it flying anywhere because you hit concrete. Congratulations.
Somehow, Stas. This was just hit by, I assume, a powerful missile bomb, and yet the helicopter remains intact.
Absolutely. It's so how many of these phantom targets they've counted as we've destroyed? I don't know, but the simple fact that this isn't even a mock-up. You make artillery pieces by taking a pipe. You sometimes use wood, but it's better you take a pipe, you put the pipe on there, put a couple wheels together and some kind of block, and you cover it all up with netting so you can't really see the details. And that gets whacked, and it's just a pipe and a couple wheels or tires, fly off. Yeah, okay. But this isn't even that. This is just drawings. I mean, quite literally, these are freaking just obviously very well-made life-size drawings, but they're drawing. I'm amazed. I mean, I didn't think that would be possible to trick modern systems this effectively with this. So yeah, even my jaded eyes are open. Wow, seriously, you can do that too? No way. But yeah, way. U.S. has bombed and Israel has bombed a lot of chalk drawings or paintings, whatever. Whoever did them, kudos that you could prove that you can, trick modern warfare that badly.
Yeah.
Normally, they'd at least make a mock-up out of wood or something and put a heating element to make it look like, there's an engine going or something. But no, these are just drawings. I mean, I don't know what else to say for that. Wow. Just wow.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to, Stas, I wanted to play Pete Hegseth's message about the war, and then ask you about Russia's involvement and pull up a story about this, because I think there's really something going on here where the longer this goes on and the more that these problems are being reported, the fact that the U.S. is wasting the munitions in a lot of senses, hitting decoys, while the Western mainstream media, getting through sources of the Pentagon, are saying that there's shortages everywhere. The air defenses are running out and ammunition is running out. It seems like the bluster only gets more and more intense. And, I think you've heard the adage that of insecurity, the more you're having troubles and struggles with a myriad of problems, the more you might lash out. Here's Pete Hegseth doing just that.
The amount of combat power that's still flowing, that's still coming, that will be able to project over Iran is a multiples of what it currently is right now when you add up our capabilities and those of the Israeli Defense Forces. And we have no shortage of authorities. The Admiral knows we have clear objectives with maximum authorities on the battlefield. The dumb, politically correct wars of the past were the opposite of what we're doing here. They had vague objectives with restrictive, minimalist rules of engagement. No more. Our authorities, his authorities, CENTCOM's authorities through the president and myself are maxed out. Our capabilities are overwhelming and gathering still, as are those of our Israeli partners. Our munitions are full up, and our will is ironclad, which means our timeline is ours and ours alone to control. As long as it takes to ensure the United States of America achieves these objectives. And as we flow more forces, and as we flow more capabilities, and as our munitions, as we're flying over the top, have even more devastating effects, we set the tempo, we set the timeline, led by the commander on the ground.
So those are very contradictory things. They're all spoken with theatrical bluster of someone trained in the media circus that is the United States. But nonetheless, Pete Hegseth said contradictory things. We're so overwhelming. We have all this munitions coming in. But, the timeline, Stas, that it's going to be as long as it takes. You can say that confidently, but as long as it takes, sounds like you are not going to be able to achieve your objectives in a very quick manner. And now there's panic over Russia. And maybe you can both react to this and help us understand exactly how Russia is providing assistance beyond the intelligence spin that we're hearing now. Are you there?
Yeah. It's an article. It's not.
Yeah, this is what we're. This is what we're being told. We're being told that Russia is providing intelligence to Iran regarding U.S. positions in the Middle East, targeting to help them with targeting across the region. Sharing information about U.S. assets is the first indication that Russia is indirectly aiding Iran. So. React to anything to Pete Hegseth's bluster here while admitting that this is going to take a while, or at least as long as it takes. And now we have Russia entering the fray.
Well, I'll start with number two first. Russia entered the fray the moment Iran finally got around to signing the mutual. It's not a mutual defense document that Russia has with North Korea and Belarus. Russia wanted that. The Iranians didn't want that. But it is a cooperation agreement. Unfortunately for Iran, they didn't sign an actual defense agreement early on. But in these 6 months, Russia has brought in MiG-29s. Russia's brought in Su-35s, which can take out an F-35, even though an F-35 is a fifth generation, because it's a pretty crappy plane. but it has stealth. But the problem is with the S-400 systems and the modern planes, the Su-35s, they can see the stealth. So that's annulled. Then Russia, what they're not talking about is and Me-28 helicopter gunships. That's for in case of Kurds, Azerbaijanis, or whoever decide to start trouble. What they're not talking about is all the other technology Russia brought in. Russia upgraded the drones. Russia upgraded the avionics. Russia upgraded the propulsion system. Russia upgraded the jamming system. Russia upgraded the identification system, the HUD-down displays for the legacy planes. And guess what? The blown-up drones, pictures started coming out of Russian microchips. That's the last of our washing machines, I know. We started pulling them out of phones and shower heads, just to find whatever we could. But yeah, so Russia apparently is able to produce quite a few, at least for military grade microchips. Wow! Because somehow we keep shooting missiles that we should have ran out of 3 years ago. So those have all been provided to Iran. And again, I don't speak for the Russian government, but this is my view on things, my personal view. So that's my good qualifier in this case. Whose pilots do you think are in those planes? Whose officers do you think are controlling those S-400s and the radar systems? Takes a year to train up an officer for a modern anti-aircraft system, at least on the Russian side. It takes at least a year to train up a fully competent pilot from nothing to being a fully competent pilot for any modern airframe. This is not World War II, where supposedly most soldiers could be trained up in about a week. If you train airmen that were trained on another platform, they are never that good. They're second class at best. Simply put, muscle memory goes to what they were trained on and grew up on. Avionics or aerodynamics is different for every single type of airplane. Sometimes radically different, even though they're all jets, yeah, but they're very different from each other in all reality. That's why you don't see F-16 pilots going flying F-18s. They can't. So it was only 6 months. So obviously, I will let the audience guess whose pilots are there and whose technicians are there, and whose technicians are in the Beidou satellite-based radar systems, the Chinese ones. They don't look like Iranians, like Persians or Azaris. That's yeah, exactly. Russia has tried to talk calm to the U.S. for years now. 4 years, the U.S. is actively, American military is shooting HIMARS-based missiles into Russian cities. I mean, it's a war. Nobody wants to admit it because they don't want to go to a full-blown war, but it's a war. And when those HIMARS get bounced into hell, those are Americans bouncing with that HIMARS system. When those Patriots get destroyed, Patriot batteries, it's 94 people in a fully staffed Patriot battery. Those are either Americans, British, Germans, or Poles, because they didn't train up that many Ukrainians, and a lot of Patriot systems have been destroyed. So who's manning them is the next question, obviously. So yeah, you'd have to be a first grade advanced level 99 idiot not to understand that you're going to get proxied just as bad as you were proxying them. They are going to have a chance to proxy you. Guess what's going to happen? Welcome to what goes around comes around. What's good for a goose is good for the gander. It's karma. We can do a lot of sayings, but I mean, you get the point. So this shouldn't be a surprise at this at all. That this is happening. Not one tiny bit. As far as Hegseth, well, in a perfect world, he'd be standing in a tribunal and watching his own videos as evidence against him. He is a war criminal. I mean, let's just put it the way it is. He is a war criminal. And not just now. He was a war criminal when they were shooting at speedboats and fishing boats. Yeah. He was even more of a war criminal, without any doubt, when he was telling them to double tap the survivors. That he's not just a war criminal, he is a criminal under American law. Because the Constitution says any law, any treaty, including the law of nations, that is approved by, ratified by Congress becomes the law of the land. shooting people that are clinging on to wood because they survived a sinking of their ship is illegal. It's murder. When they sank that frigate, the unarmed frigate, okay, first of all, it is a warship. So it's a gray matter, you know, coulda, shoulda, woulda. They knew it was unarmed, but it's a warship, and it does belong to the military that you're fighting. So technically, you can't sink it. You know, the more humane thing was surface, give them a chance to surrender and tow them off to some port and turn them. But okay, they sank it. Technically, they're allowed to do that. What they're not allowed to do is to leave the sailors there to drown and be eaten by sharks. Shark-infested waters. The entire crew died. That is a war crime. So there's war crimes from head to toe. Specifically targeting civilians is a war crime. When you're hitting civilian buildings randomly, it's a war crime, for God's sakes. And apparently now they're starting to admit that, well, maybe we did hit that school of 165 girls. Well, let me ask you a simple question. Somebody, God forbid this ever happens to you, but somebody kills your kids. What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
You're more likely going to pick up a rifle and you're going to go kill them, as many of them as you can, until you die yourself. Because this is human nature. You kill my kids, I'm going to freaking revenge myself till the day I die. Mm-hmm. And there's 165 fathers that are going to be looking for blood vengeance. Yep. And that's just that school. Yesterday, there was 1,000 civilians killed in Tehran. Estimated. A lot of buildings were destroyed, so you don't know. Hospitals hit. You know, do you think their relatives are going to go with peace? I come on a channel called El Mayadeen. I come on there as an expert. They're out of Beirut. So I'm talking to the director. I'm not going to name his name. I'm talking to the director of the office here in Moscow. Like, how's your family doing? It's like 5 members have been killed by the Israelis. I mean, he's an old man, so he's not going to go fight, obviously. But you think, what, the family members? Or these people are just going to go, oh, you know, it happens. No, they're going to want revenge.
I mean, look what's happening to Israel now. They are in a dogfight. They are being absolutely whooped by Hezbollah. They're trying to censor that. It's really hard for them. But Hezbollah, they're being whooped on the border. It's a crisis for them. Yeah.
Yeah, Hezbollah, which was holding its peace according to the ceasefire, by the way. Yeah. So again, Israel is a runaway rabid dog right now. That's the government. That's the people in charge. They're a runaway rabid dog. There's no rationalizing with people that believe that they own everything between the Euphrates and the Nile, and they're going to fix it all by getting rid of the people that live there and colonizing it all themselves over how many millions of people they have. They're going to get rid of a couple 100 million other people. I mean, how do you talk to people like that?
Yeah,
people that look at you and say, we're touched by God, we're genetically better than you, you're just a smart monkey. You can't talk to people like that. You can't rationalize with people like that. It's the same thing as with the Nazi Germany. So believed that maybe they weren't touched by God, but they were a superior race to everybody else. And you're just Untermensch. You know, you're just above one step above a ground sloth. So you know, how do you rationalize except with the barrel of a gun? That's the only thing you have left. Because when they're beaten and you're standing on their throat, then you can start rationalizing with it because they have no choice. Any other position, they're looking at you as an Untermensch. You're not worthy of even talking to me. How do you rationalize with people like that? You can't.
No.
Because their mentality doesn't allow it.
Yeah, well, there's reports that Hezbollah has perhaps downed a helicopter. Because these are just reports, we haven't seen any verification image-wise. Of course, that doesn't mean it didn't happen because the sensors are absolutely incredible right now. But reports of Hezbollah downing a helicopter, of capturing IDF troops. There's heavy fighting all across the border in the south of Lebanon right now, in reaction to the massacre that Israel is trying to commit as fast as it can by air in order to achieve greater Israel here. That seems to be.
But this isn't Hezbollah anymore. The Israelis, being rabid as they are, where earlier they were specifically mostly just hitting Hezbollah, and they were not hitting Beirut, have now started hitting the Christian sectors of Beirut. And then the Christians are a third of the population of Lebanon. True, the Lebanese army is a joke, but it still has troops, some amount of troops anyways, light equipment relatively, but still. So the Christians are now looking at what? The Orthodox and the Catholics, they're looking at what? Either your families die, they may die anyways, but either you run or you stand and fight. And I'm pretty sure they're going to stand and fight. They have no choice at this point. They were formerly allied with the Israelis. Obviously, they're not anymore when Israel's hitting the Christian districts and Christian churches and everything else. They are quite literally Gazaing Beirut right now. There are videos coming out. They're dropping 2,000-pound bombs. You drop it at the base of the building to collapse the entire building and kill everybody in there. And that's what they're committing. They're committing mass genocide. And this time, they're not trying to play one side off against the other. They're just going for mass genocide of the entire population. Regardless of religious faith, regardless of outlooks, it's genocide. Call it what it is. A war criminal committing mass genocide that America and its whores in Europe are all about supporting.
Yeah.
All about supporting. I mean, when the Europeans come out, Iran, it should be condemned for shooting at bases. They have no right to shoot at bases that are shooting at them. Okay.
Ridiculous.
There's no words by these people.
Well,
kudos to Spain. Kudos to Spain.
Yeah, seriously. The one European country with leaders, at least a few leaders, that are willing to stand up and not join and participate in this absolute horror show that is backfiring pretty hard, though, Stas, because maybe the last thing we can cover here is the math is not.
I got to run in 5 minutes, so
okay.
yeah.
I wanted to get your final comment on the math is not mathing for the United States right now. You mentioned the Qatari radar, $1.1 billion. It took 8 years to build in order to serve as the eye for, of course, U.S. air defense systems. But then there's this, Stas. There's this economic problem that the United States is facing, and it's creeping and it's escalating hard. I believe oil is now $90 a barrel as of speaking, but it's only going to go up.
You can look it up right now if you want me to.
Yeah, it's only going to go up because Iran has, with its retaliation, has basically caused 24-hour traffic. Arachi has said they haven't formally closed the strait. But the United States, they're saying they're sending the USS George Bush now. They want to escort ships in the Strait of Hormuz with Trump's promise of validating insurance so these companies, commercial vessels, can be pushed through. But Iran is saying do that, and we will do that, and the Navy becomes an even easier target than it is now. What do you make of this possible consequence of this actual consequence of the war and escalating one, which the Trump administration is trying to whistle past the graveyard about?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, all you need is large FPV drones with RPG rounds attached underneath them. That's it. And you just swarm any ship that comes through. Brent crude right now is $92.69 as of this minute. So yeah, that's up from about $68 a week ago. Look, realistically speaking, 25% of the world's oil comes out of there. It's not going anywhere anymore. U.S. has enough oil. It will hit higher prices unless the government steps in and puts a price ceiling. U.S. more or less has enough oil, and it's got reserves that can fill up for anything it needs. Russia obviously has more than enough oil for itself. The Iranian oil that right now isn't flowing to China, Russia will flow to that. Give it to China. There's enough oil for India. Of course, India was buying a lot more oil and reselling it to the Europeans. That ain't going to happen anymore, baby. And East Asians can outprice the Europeans any day. Welcome to the garden, the bankrupt garden. They can't outprice, they can't outrun. And 20% of their gas, LNG, was coming from Qatar. Qatar's LNG plants are fully shut down. They've been damaged. So even when this is done, they have to be fixed. And then it takes up to 3 weeks to put a plant back up to a gas liquefaction plant back up, because you start it up in sections and you got to make sure nothing's leaking, everything's working right, there's no blockages and so on. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks on average. And then the ships have to get there. So if you're looking at a 100-day conflict, you're looking at 3.5 months plus another month and a half. So you look at 4.5 months between before that 20% of gas goes to Europe. And just to put a nice thick dagger in between the ribs for the Europeans who are planning and talking about how they're going to drop Russia while they're supporting Russians being murdered, Russia said finally, and they should have done it a long time ago, but finally said, okay, we're out of here. Go screw off. And that's another 17% of their gas. So they just lost 37% of their gas. That's it. U.S. can't make that hole full because that would mean taking gas off of the U.S. market. It just wouldn't rise prices. There would be not enough gas on the U.S. market, natural gas. And that pisses off the people, amazingly enough. And that's not good for Mr. Mr. Bush, Mr. Trump. No, actually, Bush Jr. was a much better president than Trump was. Amazing as that is to say. I didn't think I'd ever say that one, but yeah,
well, with
he
the
was.
empire, it's all downhill. That's kind of the pattern. But Stas, this was great. I just want to make sure I thank everyone who gave a super chat. There's some good points made here, so I really appreciate all of you. I'll just post one of them up here that I thought was a really good point. If Tel Aviv weren't burning, why censor the info? Iron Dome invincibility is propaganda. U.S. fights for Israel, weakening itself. America will be out and bankrupt if Israel takes the region. So that was very good points. The U.S. system of building missiles is just fine if you're a peaceful, non-imperialist country, but we haven't been that in a very long time. Yeah, this is true.
Yep.
This is true. Although I would say it would be hard to come out and say that there wasn't a time. The U.S. military is weak. Listen to this man. The U.S. military is a joke. Douglas wants people to listen to Stas, and I agree. I want to thank everyone.
I won't say it's a joke. I won't say it's a joke because it's not a joke. It still has capacity to kill a lot of people.
Yeah,
but true. It's not up to the fight that it's picked for itself. And far from it. And if they throw those divisions in somewhere like Azerbaijan, it looks like they're getting ready to do, there's going to be a lot of dead people. And by the way, their casualties are hella higher. And in Germany, they're having blood drives on the American bases. They've actually advertised this up, Stars and Stripes, which is only printed outside the U.S. for the military. They're having blood drives. Nothing to see here. It's just regular. We just need a hell of a lot more blood because, just for whatever reason. Nothing to see. Move along.
We've got to put that up. There it is. Blood donations needed as drives return. So the Armed Services Blood Program is stepping it up. They need more. This was published. Yeah,
don't do that just for the occasional guy that gets run over by a vehicle or shoots himself in the foot or in the head by accident. It happens. It's the military. All the equipment's there designed to kill somebody. It doesn't really give a damn who it kills. But yeah, there's obvious other issues. I'm gonna run. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, we're out of here, everybody. Hit the like button.
Yep.
Make sure you follow Stas. I will put the information in the video description, everyone. We're going to head out of here. Everyone, take care. Like button.
Take care. Cheers.
Bye-bye.